So, welcome to another session of the software testing bootcamp, and we're just gonna get right down to it. I kind of yeah, took a little bit of a minute to get us all started. Just a quick recap. Remember last time we discussed, I introduced you guys to Scrum, the Scrum way of working, which is the Agile DevOps way of working. I explained what a product owner is, a Scrum Master, and the number of people or the types of people that comprise of a Scrum team. We got to see this diagram, and we also talked about different rituals that is being performed when you're a member of a Scrum team. We have the daily stand up, the sprint planning, which is when you plan the sprint before you start, the retrospective when you come together and talk about, how the previous sprint went, what you learned, what could be improved, the sprint review, which is more like a demo, and one other thing that is missing, which is also refinement. Refinement is missing a lot, kind of in this backlog. Let's see if we can find it. I think I have it in a different diagram. Um, let's see, do we have it down here? That is somewhere. Let's see. So we have the sprint. Yeah, refinement. So refinement is actually where you prepare your user stories. And last time we also did something like that, where I introduced you guys to a couple of user stories, and also try to pull out some requirements from it. And you guys are supposed to look into that. So I will expect you guys to. I'll be looking at. Actually, I'll expect you guys to submit the assignments of that task, which is I wanted you guys to. Let's go back to the stuff. So I wanted you guys to write a test plan for it, for each of the user stories, and also write a test case for the user stories. So if you remember, I was able to break this requirements down into user stories. So please be sure to uh, submit that assignment. For today, we're going to be starting with requirement analysis. How do you get a requirement? So we'll dive into this critical step. It is very critical, I'll say crucial step of software development, which is requirement analysis. And this is very important because without a clear understanding of requirements, building software will be like, constructing a house without a blueprint. So it's just going to result in problems. So requirement analysis ensures that every requirement is fully understood, ensures that it's clearly defined, and that what you're trying to do or what you're trying to build is testable. And at the end of this session, you all will know how to transform requirements into effective test cases, and also learn how to apply techniques to make requirements clear and complete. So, if you remember, I always say when you get something, you ask what the requirements. Now, when you get requirements, you have to be able to transform those requirements into test cases. So, why is requirement analysis important? Now, analysis is the process of gathering, analyzing, and validating the needs of the stakeholder. So, if I say I want you to build a login page, you want to, okay, understand what really needs to be done. You want to understand what that stakeholder does. So it's not because you've worked on a login page when you were working in Amazon, then you expect that the login page in Enquete is going to be the same. No, you have to try to understand the needs of the stakeholders. It also ensures that the software fulfills its intended purpose and lays a foundation for effective testing. So here are some of the importance. Um, Let me see. Do I have the right slide? Just give me a minute. Let me see. Okay. So some of the importance of requirement analysis. So requirement analysis it forms a basis for creating a test plan or a test case. So it establishes a foundation for it. So without clear requirements, it is challenging to develop good tests. So it is based on the requirements that you're going to be like, okay, since the requirement says that the password must be 6 character long, Then I'm going to write a test that tests or checks if the user can only input 6 characters long. So I'm going to write a test for 5 characters to see if it's going to refuse. I'm going to write a test that is, if the requirement says it has to have capital letter, I'm going to write a test with small letters and see if it's going to pass. So because of you get those requirements, it also creates a foundation for that. It also ensures clarity. Yeah. So the process ensures that the process of requirement analysis ensures that developers, testers, and stakeholders share a common understanding of what the software needs to do, and it helps prevent misunderstanding. So let me see. Why is my camera not working? Because you guys can't see me. Just give me a minute. Let me get the camera working. Um, just one moment. All right. Hopefully we can see me now. I guess yes. So sorry about that. Something else. Um. So where was I? So requirement analysis ensures clarity, prevents misunderstanding. Requirement analysis also makes whatever is being built testable. So each requirement must be specific and testable. So when a requirement analysis properly performed, ambiguity will be minimized because ambiguity can lead to uh, poor testing. That's why I say if you don't understand something or if the requirement is not clear, you have to ask like, okay, do you mean this? Do you mean that? So yeah, it ensures testability. It reduces confusions, right? Also, for quality assurance, by addressing ambiguities and inconsistencies early during the requirement analysis, it kind of ensures that the software has quality tests written. So requirement analysis, very important. You want to get in your requirements, you want to understand it, you want to be like, okay, does it make sense? Do I as a tester understand it, right? Now move to the next slide. So how to derive test cases from requirements? How do you do that? How is it that when you get a requirement, you can now figure out how to write tests on it, right? So turning requirements into test cases actually ensures that the software meets the intended purpose. And here you see a list of kind of steps or guide to be able to do that. So first, you want to understand the requirements thoroughly. So thoroughly reviewing the documents to understand the software's functionality and its constraints and expected behavior is one thing that must be done. You want to understand the requirement. Don't be like, oh, okay, uh, everybody understands it but me. No, you have to understand what requirements needs to be met, right? Now, secondly, you want to identify test scenarios. How do you do that? You create high-level test scenarios based on the requirements. Let me see. There's a hand up. Okay. Ifeanyi, go ahead. Ifeanyi has a question.
Your voice is not too clear.
Okay, just
I
give me
mean,
a minute.
from maybe from the mic.
All right. So if something goes wrong, please be sure to let me know. So let's see. So the second way to derive test cases for requirements, like I was mentioning, is to identify test scenarios. Now create high level test scenarios based on the requirements. Now let's see if we can pull up our example, the one we've been working on for some time. Let me see. Software testing, project home. So Let me see if I can bring the explanation a little bit closer to everyone. So we're working on encounter. So we go to the board, if you guys remember, and we're running on this sprint and backlog. So let's take this for example. And this is the so this is the user story. As a visitor, I want to create an account so that I can access the application's protected features. Uh, More descriptions here, and then we have the acceptance criteria. Now, this acceptance criteria that we stipulated here will help you with your. Sorry for loading this up. So this the acceptance criteria is one place where you can really start pulling out your requirements from, and also your test cases. Of course, you want to read globally to understand what is required, but if you take a closer look at your acceptance criteria, you would figure out what kind of tests you have to write. So, going back to this again, you say identify high level test scenarios. So, first of all, you want to test for a valid registration. So, that is high level. So you have to have a test, and then you have to now look in detail what does that entail. So maybe this high level part would entail you write multiple tests. So maybe you want to test first of all if at least one number and special character is involved. You also want to test if the right message is being returned, but all of them fall under valid registration. Then you also want to test duplicate email handling, and you look, okay, how do I do that? So this high level part can also contain multiple parts, and just like that, you understand. So one of the places you can start drawing out your test case out from is from your acceptance criteria. If you don't find it, if you find, you probably definitely will find some in your acceptance criteria, but be sure to also read your user story and understand it, because also you might miss something there that's like, okay, they want the application to behave in this way, let me write a test that checks if it behaves that way. So that is that. Now, another way is to develop detailed test cases, right? So for each test scenario, create a detailed test case with specific steps. So you want to write, I think we've already started practicing with that. You want to go step by step, uh, uh, detailing out how that test should be run. Now, review and validation. So get test cases reviewed, of course, by your teammates when you are done, which is something we're gonna do also in this hour exercise. I mean, with the lab session we're having with Enquete. So when that is done, we're gonna share it with each other, and we're gonna get it reviewed to also get feedback. So this is how you derive test cases from requirements. These are the processes you want to follow in order to have a good test case from the requirements you gather. So let's see the next part. Um, so techniques for requirement analysis. What are the techniques? Let me see. Just give me a minute. Pop, 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 pop. Okay. Sorry, I'm just taking a look at my notes to be sure I'm at the right spot. All right. Sorry about that. I am back again. So we're going to move into the part of techniques for effective requirements analysis, right? Um, so the first technique, or yeah, the first technique is to conduct interviews, right? So let me try to bring this home again. I know we've talked about requirement, but I just want to be sure, right? If it's driving home, because when we talk about these words, requirements, analysis, sometimes it sounds fancy, it sounds big, but this is something you can drive home. I want to drive home because you guys do it all the time. Maybe you just don't know. So I want to be sure. So I'm gonna go take a round. Yeah. Constance, are you leaving now? Okay, Constance, what do you do for?
No,
Do you have
not
a
yet.
hustle? Do you have a side hustle? You're what?
Yeah, I do lashes. I'm a lash tech.
Uh, Great.
I do
So we're gonna use
lashes, like
Constance for our
lash extensions and stuff.
example to see how she can perform requirement analysis. So I'm gonna be your customer, Constance. Now my question is, I'm gonna come to you. I'm gonna tell you, I want lashes. I want lashes, and you are a lash tech. So, Constance, I want lashes. So walk me through it. Uh,
So the first thing I asked is how long do you want them? I would ask what style do you want? Do you want like a cat eye look? Do you want a doll look? And then I'll ask how full do you want the lashes as well. Yeah, what else should I ask? I'll just ask a picture. I'll ask to
Great,
see a picture
great.
so I would know
So you
exactly
just asked me four
what she
things.
wants as
So
well.
what you just did
Yeah,
now is requirements analysis, or more or less, you just gathered the requirements. I hope you know that, right? So when you're done with your work, how do you check?
yeah. And when I'm done my work, I check for myself to see if it looks good,
Good.
and then I'll ask her to have a look to see if she likes it.
So what you just
Yeah,
did
and then
there
I'll
is
look at the
called
picture
testing.
to see if it looks like the picture that she showed me.
So first of all, you gathered requirements because I'm not just gonna come and just say I want
Yeah,
eyelashes and you just take eyelashes and put in my eyes, right? Because there's so many ways eyelashes can be done. Maybe I don't know, maybe I want a feather
yeah,
eyelash, but you are putting something else. I'll be like, who told you that's what I want? But because you gathered requirements first, you're like, okay, what do you want? How long is it? Um, Probably you ask me, what event do I want to visit? And the reason you do that sometimes is because you want to make recommendations. What if I want to go for a wedding, but I'm asking for an eyelash that most people use for a carnival, and you'll be like, this eyelashes you're talking is nice though, but most people use it for carnivals, so I could recommend one for you. Do you understand? And all of that happens in software testing.
yeah,
You could get a requirement from your stakeholders. It doesn't mean that all the requirements you get from so that you don't have an opinion. Yes, you do have an opinion, but your opinion comes in more like a suggestion. So you could be like, "Oh, I want to." Let's say you say that your stakeholder says, "I want all the passwords to have a capital letter, to have a hash, to have a special character, and they should be um, 12 characters long." You as a tester could be like, okay, that's nice, but mostly long passwords and and all these multiple characters, it makes people forget their password. Are you sure you want us to go there? Because I mean, 6 characters is mostly what people are used to, but you want 12. Are you sure that's what you want us to do? And if the stakeholder is like, yeah, 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 I know, but that's what I want us to do, you'd be like, okay, no problem. Or he could be like, oh, really? Okay, okay. I think what you're saying makes sense. Let's go back to 12. So you see, it's just the same way you all run businesses in your stuff. Whatever side hustle you do, you perform requirement analysis. If you don't perform requirement analysis in your business, you will always get into trouble with your customers. You will always, I can guarantee it. You think about it. I'm sure you guys have gone to a tailor before, and tailor sold what you did not ask him. You understand? I mean, my wife always has problems with tailors and stuff because she has what she wants in her head, and she tells tailors, and then they do something else. And that's the problem. The tailor did not perform a proper requirement analysis. Or maybe the tailor performed requirement analysis and started assuming, she's going to like it. I'm sure she's going to like a boy in the center. Who told you that? Did she tell you that? And then you now present the clothes and your customer is pissed. Who told you to put a bow in the chest? I was thinking about it. I thought you're going to like it. I'm sorry, no, that was not part of the requirement. That's why I also tell you guys that if you always have an idea that something should be different, Who should you talk to first before you start assuming things? Take for example, you get a user story. You're working on a test, and you think like, this thing should be different. Maybe it should be something else. Who is it you have to talk to? In most cases, if you feel something needs to be different to verify, who should that be? I'm gonna pick up somebody. Let's see. Justin, do you remember who? Let me bring up this picture again so that's is going to help you guys with okay. The business analyst, exactly. The business analyst. Okay, so
Business
let me have to
analyst.
show that. So business analyst. Let me see. Where was I? Here, right? So yeah, the business analyst. The business analyst is who you want to talk to, or in some companies they call the person domain analyst. The business analyst actually should know everything about the software and should have those requirements written down, or if you can't find the business analyst, you want to draw in the product owner. So don't just go off by yourself and start doing stuff because you think it's going to be nice, or you think, oh, Yahoo all used to take 12 passwords, so it's nice. Let me do it here. No, that's not part of the requirements. If you have different ideas, please check. Remember the Taylor example because I know most of us have that problem where you tell a tailor to do something and the tailor starts fantasizing and start doing left. And it most of the time people get upset because that's not what you asked for, right? So it's the same thing we're doing as testers because after those requirements are being gathered, after the tailor has sewn the cloth, you want to perform testing. Now, testing in terms of in the context of uh, cloth making happens in two ways. You as the person that needs the cloth come and do your test. You're the tester because first of all you check. I told you that you should make it I don't know 12 feet long. Is it 12 feet long? Check. I want the color to be green. Is it green? Check. I wanted the bow at the back, but you put the bow at the front. Fail. Take it back. Go and change it. So that take it back, go and change it. That's what happens with the developers. You're like, okay, there's a bug. This is not what is how it's supposed to work. So developers, please fix it. So you see, we're doing some kind of testing in our daily life. You understand? We're doing requirement analysis. We're doing testing, but we want to bring it into tech. So if you think about it in that context, it's not going to be too, you know, too mind blowing. It's just, it's just something we've been doing, but this time we just, use it in our day to day. I mean, we just use it in the tech space, right? Um, so the next one is use cases. So you also want to describe how users will interact with the system. Don't forget, we're talking about techniques for effective requirement analysis. So let me bring it back full circle. So remember, I said the tailor, um, if a tailor makes a cloth for you, or actually wants to make a cloth for you, and at the end of the day doesn't make what you want, it's because the tailor did not perform a proper requirement analysis. And what we are discussing now is how can such a tailor, or in this context, we're talking about tech. How can you be able to perform proper and effective requirement analysis? So we've talked about conducting interviews. The second one is workshops. So you want to collaborate with stakeholders to refine requirements. So remember in this diagram, I talked about refinements, right? So that's this stuff here, which is what we also did last time. So you want to have a meeting where you sit down with the stakeholders, or you sit down with the business analyst, or you sit down with your product owner, and you say, okay, can you really just explain to me so I'll try to understand what you want? So you see, last time when we performed a refinement, all these bullet points were coming out because you guys started asking questions. What about this? What about that? What kind of success message should come back? All of this is what is going to make your requirements very, very clear to you as a tester, right? Because now you know what to test. So refinement, or how would I say it? A workshop. Yeah, they use the word workshop here, but it's just practically a meeting, right? They use the word workshop here, but it's just practically a meeting where you come together and you refine the user story and you refine the requirement. You ask questions, you try to understand it, right? And in some cases, even diagrams might be used to facilitate understanding, right? Now, the next one on how you can be effective in gathering these requirements is use cases. So, use cases describe how users will interact with the system to achieve specific goals. including alternative flows and exceptions. So uh, a use case is just practically saying, so take for example, yeah, a use case is, I don't know, does when I use the word use case, can you raise your hand if you understand what the term use case is? So just raise your hands up if you understand what use cases are. So I see Ify, Obina, who else? Use case? I say Evans. Oh, Evans is in the call. So Evans, we're gonna hear your voice in a minute. I see Constance. So let's go with Evans. Evans, what do you understand by use case? What is a use case to you from your when you see it here? What do you think it means? Good morning.
Hello, good morning, everyone. So, a use case is a simple explanation on how somebody uses a product
Great, 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 great.
or a system
Um,
to achieve their
Constance, is that the
goals,
same with what you have, or you
basically.
have a different idea for it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I think that's
Exactly. So a use case
basically how a
is pretty much
user
what what
interacts with
Evans just mentioned is
something, a
you want
website.
to like um how would I say it? Yeah, explain or more like follow a certain type of user in the way they're going to interact with a system. So um let's see. So let me see if I can get a diagram up here. So in this let me pull that up. Just give me a minute. Where is that thing? Yes. So I'm going to draw a bit of a case here. So we see I talked about in my explanation on the use case, I said you want to include uh, sorry. First of all, we know use case is how a user interacts with the system, but you want to also include alternative flows and exception, right? So in the enquete system, right, the survey system, enquete, right? This is the app. So I asked you guys to test a registration page and a login page, right? So these are the two ways that users can gain can gain access to the system. So user needs to be registered first and yeah and log in, right? But as we go further, you're going to see that we have multiple types of users. So what type of users will log into the system or should gain access to the system? So we have customers, but also you could have administrators. You could also have what do you call these guys? Content managers, and so on, right? So, for example, a customer is probably the one that needs to be able to register this, but you also have a user called admin and a user called content manager. Now, this user, what does the admin do, or eventually, what would an admin be able to do? Now, admin is actually the one that should be able to also log in, but then gain access to other parts of the system that the customer would not be able to gain access to, such as the admin should be able to block a user, an admin should be able to, I don't know, see how many people have paid, how many free users, and all of those extra features. Now, a content manager, however, should also be able to log in, but this time gain access to the blogs because he or she will be updating the blogs that eventually show on the website. So these are different use cases. And when you want to write a test for this, they are also going to be different because they all have different, these three users have different behaviors and different access to different parts of the system. So uh, one can use a diagram to try to explain even further how these use cases work and in what situations would this login move here or move here to other parts of the system. So use cases is also a very good way to explain things when you're gathering requirements. You want to like draw it out, you want to pull it out, you want to say, okay, what if I'm a user? What if I'm an administrator? What if I'm this? Or what are the types of users you expect to use this and try to map out their interaction or their use case in the way they interact with the system. So these are some of the use cases we're also going to see as we keep working on the Encarta website. Now, the next one is prototyping. Now, prototyping is creating a simplified version of the software to visualize and validate requirements before full-scale production. So I know Chinonso is also very familiar with prototyping, or maybe some of you, because I know she works with a very popular prototyping software called Figma. So if you've used Figma before, you would know that Figma is actually right now one of the biggest. Oh, sorry, that's not supposed. That's for my work. Um, Figma is a very popular prototyping software if you've not heard the name before. Let me see. I don't want to show you guys anything from my work because that's private for my company before they sue me. Um, but this is Figma. And what you can do with Figma is you can actually build out your application and set it up in such a way that it works. It's just like an animation where you click through and you see the behavior. And prototyping helps you understand what the requirements really are. So if the company you work for also have like experts in this, the designer can work very closely with the analyst to prototype the actual behavior. So these are very, very effective ways to gather requirements for the software you want to build. Just like for the as in the Taylor example, a prototyping will be you asking for a picture of what the person wants to build. Because I heard Constance say something like, "Oh, I wanna you want to put an eyelash. Like, do you have a picture of the kind of eyelash you want to put?" So the moment that person shows you that, it also helps with your requirement analysis because now you're like, oh, okay, I get it. I see it visually and I know what the requirements are. You understand? And later you can test it alongside that prototype, right? So these are effective ways you want to gather information. These are the techniques you can use to gather um, information or requirements when preparing for or before you prepare for tests. Now, what are the common challenges when gathering requirements or during requirement analysis, and what solutions are there? Now, one of the biggest challenges is ambiguities in requirements, right? Ambiguities just basically mean when you say something, but it means multiple things, right? So if I say, what word can I remember that is ambiguous? Mm, yeah, all right. A word I know that is ambiguous is the word dope, right? I don't know if you guys know dope. So if I said this shit is dope, and I'm like, we got dope. Those are dope is used in two different ways. So we this shit is dope actually means this shit is cool, and we got dope. We got dope is means kind of it means we got cocaine or we got drugs. So that's ambiguity, right? So yeah, sorry, I don't do drugs, but yeah, just an example. Um, so ambiguities is actually one of the biggest challenge when it comes to requirement analysis. So what is the solution? Oh, sorry, I'm showing you the wrong slide. What is the solution for that? Solution is to ask clarifying questions and use concrete example. If you're in a meeting and someone is using phrases and terms that you know belongs to a different context or you know it in a different context, you want to ask for clarification. Second is incomplete requirements. A lot of times, you understand, analysts, there's always this business pressure. Everybody's trying to work fast. And an analyst or even you as a developer, as a tester, could write a user story and not fully put in the requirements that are needed. So the solution for that is you want to conduct a review, you want to involve the stakeholders, and you want to use checklists. You want to make sure that, okay, do we have all the requirements in here? Like, is everything that is needed to make this product or this user story complete, are they in here? So this is the user story, and you want to make sure that, okay, during your refinement meetings, by talking to your stakeholders and by talking to your analysts, you're like, okay, are you sure we have everything complete that is needed, right? To make sure, or even by asking questions, you can get uh, more requirements in there that we're missing. Another problem is changing requirements. This is very, very popular, and I'm sure Ifeanyi will be very, very familiar with this because I know Ifeanyi is a freelancer every now and then, and he builds websites. And at first, the user comes and says, "Yo, I want a website that the logo is on the left," and you're like, "Okay," and I want this to happen in the center. I want that to happen at the back, and then you build it, and then the what do you call it? The client is like, "Can you put the logo at the right?" And then it tells you, "Oh, can you delete that page and put that picture that way or the other way?" So that is changing requirements, and yeah, that is quite a challenge because you as a developer, you as a tester, you've probably already written a test for that part, and now all of a sudden the stakeholder is like, "Oh, can you move it there? Can you move it there?" The other side, but yeah, this is something that happens in software development. It happens in your daily stuff. So bringing back Constance's business again. I don't know, is she still here? Yeah, she's still here. So if we bring back Constance's side hustle, eyelashes fixing, yeah, you could go ahead and buy the set of the, I don't know, 1 meter eyelash. I don't know how long those things are, but let's say 1 meter. That's very long, I'm sure. And then the person's like, can you make it a lot shorter? See, that's a different requirement from what the person actually asked. And that could actually kind of be challenging to run around those different things. And what is the solution? So the solution is you want to establish a change control process and prioritize requirements. What does that mean? It means that if when I started this story, this was the requirements I used to start. If you then come and say, "Can you change this?" I'm going to tell you that, okay, this was not in the original requirement. So, what we are going to do is, I'm going to finish this one that I'm doing, and then we're going to create another user story where we're going to apply that change. Now, let me bring it home. Constance is fixing that eyelashes, and the person has said, "I want a 1 meter eyelash." I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong measurements, right? 1 meter eyelash. Then you bought the 1 meter eyelash. So the point is, how do you manage this? Before you start implementing your stuff, you need to have a proper understanding with your client. You understand? In tech, we call that, we have to have a proper change control process. So what you're going to say is, "Lady, so this, first of all, you want to verify these are the things you said you wanted, right?" The person confirms yes. You have to make it clear before you proceed that, should in case you come tomorrow and change anything here, these are the steps that must be taken. So in the eyelashes stuff, you're gonna be like, "Yo, that's gonna cost you extra." Or if you want me to buy a different eyelashes, you must pay for this one. So you're not gonna use the money or think that the money you paid for this one is gonna be used for the other because I've already spent it. So please understand, if anything deviates these things we have spoken about, it will cost you extra. That is you performing a proper change requirement. You understand? To bring it back to Ifeanyi's freelance work, which I think I've discussed with you before. If someone has said, "This is the stuff we need in our website, we want this, we want that, we want this, we want you to put this here, we want you to put that there," and you write a proper document and say, "Is this actually what you agreed you want?" The person is like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." You have to also make the person understand that. Should tomorrow you come again and say, "This thing should move there, that should move there, I want the database now to be two instead of one," it comes with extra costs. That is you performing a proper change requirement. Now, coming into tech, or coming into projects like this, what you do is exactly what I explained. If when you as a team or as a tester, because as a tester you're also part of the team, a proper change requirement is if the stakeholder comes and say, okay, I don't want 6 characters anymore, I want 5. So as long as the project has started already, the project has to complete, and you have to write a whole new user story for that implementation. And that also means you have to write a different test, not a different test, but the person cannot, the stakeholder cannot stop you in the middle of your project and say, they can actually because they're paying you. But if you have proper change requirements, it will prohibit that. That means you have to finish this project first, and then there has to be another project or another user story that says, okay, can you change this from 6 to 5? And not that you're already working on it, and then someone just says, oh, can you make it 5 instead? You understand? And then you're now like, oh my God, it doesn't fit with the requirement. So that's how you deal with this in projects. So, if you think about it in real world, you see that a lot of things is very similar. And another difficulty is conflicting requirements. Conflicting requirements is when different stakeholders have conflicting expectations. So, take for example, in the Encarta 2 we are building, we have 2 owners, and you had a meeting with Darlington, and then you had a meeting with Sumbo, and Darlington said, "I want the password to be maximum of 6." But then later, Darlington was not around, and you're like, "Oh, let me call Sumbo because Sumbo is his partner. Let me check." And Sumbo now says it should be 4 characters long. So that is a conflict. You understand? And the solution to that is to facilitate discussions and seek a compromise. So you bring everybody in the room, with Darlington and Sumba, you say, okay, guys, both of you are stakeholders. Please, can we agree upon how long this password should be? You understand? Because when we agree upon that, then we can move forward. So these are some of the challenges one can face when gathering requirements, and these are ways we can solve them. All right, exciting, right? So, any questions? Who has a question so far? Is it clear? Okay, if it's clear, can you raise up your hand? Let's do it that way. All right. Obi is not raising up his hand. Ifan, you're not raising up. Ifan is raising up his hand. Obi, is anything not clear? You have any question? Oh, I said what I've explained so far, or what you've heard so far, is it clear? Or are there areas
Yeah,
or
I
words
just
or or
I took a tea
context
break,
that
so I
you
didn't
didn't really
hear what you
understand?
said last.
All right. So let's see how much time do we have. All right. So let's move to the next part. Traceability matrix.
No,
Traceability matrix.
it's
What
clear.
is that? So a traceability matrix. Uh, yeah. I think last time we talked about the traceability. Traceability is just basically you being able to trace something. And when you talk about matrix, I think you should just think about anything that is in a tabular form is a matrix, right? So that's just how I put it in my head. So if I go like this and I say uh, 2 times table, I like to use Google a lot, so let me look for times table. Yeah, this is an example of a matrix. Let me see. Can we get a bigger picture? Uh, yeah, I don't know. Put a new tab. Yeah. So this is an example of a matrix because with this matrix, so you have the left side and the top side, you can actually trace what 5 times 5 is. So just trace and trace. You see 5 times 5 is 25. You can trace what 9 times 8 is. And you go 8 down, and you go 9, so you're 72. So we've probably been using traceability matrix like since kindergarten or how long, but This is just basically what a matrix is. Just gives you is a table. It's mostly like a table of formats that kind of like you can use to like trace or pass get information across real quickly and more compact, right? More in a compact way. But what is traceability matrix in terms of software testing? So a traceability matrix links requirements to test cases, right? And it ensures coverage and accountability. So let's go into it. So I think we have an example here. So let's see. Just give me a minute. It's a good example. Yeah. So this is the definition of traceability: document linking requirements to test cases and ensures completeness of coverage. Sorry, ensures complete coverage and easy tracking. So as you can see here, we have the requirement R001. The requirement is sorry, the description is user registration. This is the test code, test case ID, and then here you have the test case, and then you have the status. So just pulling out this chart can help one see, yeah, what's the success rate of a bunch of tests, what it is about. Was it good? Was it bad? Did everything pass and stuff? So this is, like I said, a tabular format, and it's just more like the timetable as well. On the left side, you have a bunch of information, and on the right side, you have different columns, and all of that gives you more information about, uh, yeah, what the status is of uh, the test, right? So this is something. Uh, in a lot of cases, we also refer to this as test report. So I mentioned last time, like when you perform a series of tests, you want to have a test report after you have performed the test, right? So with this traceability matrix, you can actually uh, give more of yeah, what is the coverage of the test and was everything covered successfully, right? Let's see. So let's see. Look at types of traceability. So let me see. Let me look for my. Uh, Let me see for my notes. All right. So the types of traceability matrices we have. We have the forward traceability. So what does that do? So the forward traceability, it maps each requirement to its test case, and it ensures that all requirements are tested. So let me see if I can pull that up again. Sorry, that's this guy. So a forward traceability, it maps each requirement. So this is the requirement ID, uh, and it also ensures that all of them are tested. So you see on the right side here, it shows you that everything is actually tested or not tested. So yeah, this is more of a forward traceability matrix. A backward traceability matrix maps test cases back to the requirements, so more of a reverse, and it verifies that every test case aligns with a valid requirement. So yeah, it's just basically having this whole stuff in reverse, and then maybe the status stays here. I don't think I have an example of that, or maybe we can Google that. Let's see if we can see an example of that. So you see, I'm doing this real time. So backwards traceability example. Let's see if we can find something. Uh, Put a context. Software testing. Let's see. Mm, uh, okay, so I can't pin my hand on anyone real quick. Okay, I'll look that up. But I just want you guys to know that that exists. I don't really have a good example for that. And you also have bidirectional traceability matrix. The bidirectional traceability matrix combines both forward and backward traceability. I think it speaks for itself, and it tracks coverage of both directions, right? Um, so this is just for head knowledge, for exams and stuff. But basically, if you have this in mind, this is a very popular uh yeah traceability matrix that you see around. Now, let's go to the components of traceability matrix. A typical traceability matrix contains the elements you see here. One, a requirement ID. So I think we saw that here. Requirement ID. And a requirement ID is a unique identifier for each requirement. Uh, Maybe it can also be generated manually or using Jira too. So if we look at this user story, this would be this number 5 here would be our requirement ID. So this is probably what you would put here. So and also remember requirement ID is quite different from your test case ID. So this requirement ID would help me trace this test back to this user story. So if you put the requirement ID there 5, I'll be like, okay, if I come here now and I type 5, you see that? Let me see. It's crazy. This project 5. If I push enter, you see it opens this up for me. So each of these stories have their own requirement ID. So I'll just say 8. If I put 8 now and I push enter, you see that? It pulls it up. So it helps the team, it helps you know where to find the full description of the user story and the requirement. So yeah, requirement ID, very important. And of course the description. Uh, The description actually is a brief summary of the requirements and provides context and clarity. So that's also what we see in the user story, but also sorry in the requirements here. So description is very important. The next is the test case ID. The test case ID is the unique identifier for the test case. I'm sure we've seen that a lot when writing uh, test cases, but that's this column here. The test case ID, very important in a requirement in a traceability matrix. Where am I again? And of course, the test case description in a concise manner. So this is the test case description. So if we remember, I think, did we have an example of a test case here? So let me see. I think we had that in one of our previous trainings, but I'm sure you guys, yeah, this is it. So we have the test case ID, the description. This is what you pull out and you put in here. So this is the basic components, or how would I say it? These are the components of a traceability matrix. They must have this part for it to drive the message. And of course, I forgot to mention the last status. The status shows if that test passed, failed, or if it's in progress. So that's also what you see here, or even not started. So with this matrix, I can just look at it, or you can send this to your team, or send it as a report, and at a glance, one can see that okay, out of all the 7 tests that was performed, only 4 passed, and then the product owner can decide if this product should be released or not, or say no, it has to stop because it has to be fixed before anything goes out to production. Now, what are the steps to creating a traceability matrix? Now, creating a traceability matrix is pretty straightforward. First, you want to gather requirements. You want to collect all requirements from the requirement document. So, yeah, the requirement document in this case will be this guy, which is this our user story. So that's the beauty of having working with tools such as Azure DevOps. You have it in one place. So you want to gather all the requirements. You want to list out all your test cases, compile a list of all test cases that created for the project. You want to map requirements to test cases. So you see, you want to map your requirements to the test case. So you want to make sure that This arrow is pointing to the right test case. You map that out. Pretty straightforward stuff. And you want to continuously update your changes. So anytime a new test gets added, you want to update this traceability matrix. So it's pretty straightforward on how to the steps that needs you need to create a traceability matrix, right? Now we've already seen. Okay, I think we have a question. Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, my question would be this traceability metrics, is it like a universal requirement for testers? Is it like something that you must bring into play whenever you're um, doing a test work, for example? Why I'm asking is, um, for instance, let's say as a tester, you have personal way of doing all of this by yourself. Does that work, or is it like usually part of companies' best practice requirement that when a
I think that's a
tester
very
is
brilliant
doing
question.
his work,
That's
he
a
has
brilliant
to
question. So
really
first of
bring
all, I
these
would tell you guys from
metrics
real
into
life.
play?
Now, a lot of
Or
people
is it
answer this
just
question,
for
but I'm going to tell you
personal
from real
use
life
for you
how
to
it plays
understand what
out.
you're doing and to guide you properly?
So first of all, when you work for a company, every company that has a software testing team, the testing team already has a culture in place how they do certain things. A lot of them will ignore a lot of things. They'll take shortcuts. They will not do some of these things we are talking about. Most of them they will do, but a lot of things like this they might not do. And of course, when you get into the team, the first thing you want to do is you want to understand what kind of deliverables do they do, what are the rituals, what's how do they deliver, right? And then of course you work with them. But you as a tester, if you want to show that you know your stuff, because the traceability matrix is very important for you, like you said, for you to keep track of what you're doing, but also it can also serve as a test report. So every time a product goes to production, how can we know what was tested? Like when I mean how can we know, not you as testers, oh, me as a product owner, me as a dev team, me as a stakeholder, how would I know what you tested? Are you going to now start showing me all your test cases? I don't know. What is the easiest way you can make me, or before, let's say I'm your product owner and I want to deploy certain changes to production. How can you make me see in a glass that this is what has been tested? That's where your traceability report comes into play. Because if you tell me, okay, I want to have a meeting with you, I'm going to show you this document. I tested this document. I tested. No. If you give me a traceability report, you understand? First thing that my eye is going to go to is the right side. Did everything pass? That's where my eye is going to go because I'm all about results. You understand? Okay. And I'll see that this one is in progress. And I'll look. I'll ask questions. Why is it in progress? When can it be delivered? Because this information is going to let me, as a product owner, decide if I should allow this to go to production or not. So coming back to your question, yeah, this is not. This is a very invaluable tool. Now, depending on the team you get into, you would see what they're doing or what they're not doing. But you, as a tester, when you come into a team and you don't see this, it's a good idea you call your team together, I mean, your team of testers, and you say, why don't we have a traceability report? Why? Or why are we not using one? This is the reason, this is the reason, blah, 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 blah. You can also advocate for, come on, guys, we have to set up a traceability report. This is how we can verify or show our stakeholders, our, how would I say, show our product owner that what our test coverage is, what we have been able to test. And that only just makes you shine. It makes you, it makes everybody knows you know what you're doing because you know what a traceability report is and you know that it's a very important way, sorry, a very easy way to communicate what has been tested or not. It's just the same way you look at this timetable, right? So where's that my beautiful timetable? Yeah, this guy. This is a very compact way for you to give somebody a multiplication table. Now you could go ahead and break it down and write each times table in its own page, but that's not compact. I just want to have a compact way that you can show me, okay, what is 10 times 10? A matrix like this passes that information very quick because it's also kind of a medium of communication. It's good for myself that created it, but also for me to be able to communicate with other teams very effectively. So I don't know if that answers your question. It depends. Let me summarize. It depends on the team you come into. A lot of teams are not mature enough. A lot of teams are just trying to set up their testing team and be more. It depends on the maturity of the team. But when you come in and you see some of these things not in place, you have to say it or ask, okay, why are we not using it? You understand? Someone might have a good reason for it, but you want to debate it. But you just mentioning it shows that you know what you're doing, and they might explain it to you, and you try to make them understand that, guys, listen, you guys, if we use a traceability report, it makes communicating this information very simple. So I want us to give it a try. Let's put it together. You understand? And that way you are kind of adding value to your team. So yeah, does that answer your question? Yes, I see a thumbs up. Great, great, great. So let's see, maybe we can be able to round up this chapter today. So we talked about the components of traceability report. We also talked about, oh, I think, yeah, we talked about this part. And yeah, I think we are pretty much at the end. Great, 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 great. We're at the end of this chapter. So last time, you guys, let me see, how much time do we have? We have a few more minutes. So last time we already had that practical that had to do with enquete.com. So alongside that, I'm going to add this other stuff that you guys want to, uh, yeah, this extra lab. So already you guys were going to write test scenarios for each requirement. So that one is already in in its execution. But the extra part I want you guys to add is to build a traceability report. Now, this traceability report, remember, because the test has not been carried out yet. So let me go back to this. So if you write a traceability report when you have not actually carried out the test, what would be the status of the what would be the value on the status column? What would be the value here? What would be the test? I mean the value. Let me see. Who am I gonna pick? OB. So if you write the traceability report now for the encounter test cases you're writing, what would you fill in here on the status column? OB, you're muted. I don't know. So right now, you guys are writing test cases for the user stories we created for Enquete, right?
Okay. So that
I
would
am also
be.
saying that along with those test cases, I also want you
But
to
I
write
ask
a
question again,
traceability
please.
report. So my question is, what will be the state? What will be the value? What would you put under after you've summed up the different
Okay.
requirements, just like you see here in the tabular format? What value would you now put in the status column? What would be filled in here?
Okay.
If you say if you did it today and you gave it to me tomorrow, what would you fill in here on all of them? Okay, think about it. I think you're trying to get it, figure it out. I'm gonna call someone else. Sumbo, have any idea? What? I repeat the question. Okay, so you guys are going to write test cases for the user stories that we have here. So we have about 5 user stories, each having their own requirements, and you guys are going to write test cases for every one of
Yes,
this
please.
requirements or user stories, right? With that, you're going to create a traceability matrix like the one you see here for each of the test cases and and yeah, requirements and user stories you're writing. So when you're done with that, take for example you're done with that today. What would you fill in under the status column for each of that? What would be the value you filled in here for each of them? There's a repetition coming from your side, but I think you answered something, but I didn't hear it.
For each of them, each of them.
Why? I said if you send it to me
Okay,
today.
I think this is better.
Yeah, you're done with the
Completed,
traceability matrix. Yeah.
because I'm done with if I'm done and I'm
Okay,
sending it to you, right?
listen to my words, my analogy very carefully. I'm picking my words. If you're
And I'm
done
done with it.
today and you submitted it today, what would be the values here? So
Or
I'm
depending
intentionally
on
picking my words.
which of the test case I'm done with.
Okay, good. All right. Let's try Chinoso. Do you agree with that, or you have a different opinion? Why?
Yeah, it's gonna be completed.
Okay.
I was thinking
All
like
right.
in progress.
Let's keep that in mind. Let's try if I.
Because even though I've written the test case,
Okay.
probably
Why?
have not
Same reason.
tested it yet.
Yeah, in progress. The status will be in progress.
Okay. Great. Let's try Justin.
Yeah, because I just submitted it to you. Maybe you need to go through it. A lot of maybe there might be some mistakes or something like that.
Yeah, it should be in progress. And my own reason, in addition to what Ify
Okay.
and
So good, good. Thank you
Chinonso
guys for
said, will
the
be
feedback. That is good.
because
That's
this is
good.
not
And
going
it
to
shows that you
production
guys are
yet.
like thinking. No
This is
matter the
just
reasons you give, it shows you're thinking
still
like, okay,
going
why,
to be
when would I
worked
put
on
this?
before it
Very good.
goes to
That's actually what
production.
I
So
would do.
I think
However,
it should
the
be in
right answer
progress.
is not started. Because have you guys started testing? The answer is no. None of you have started testing. You guys are just writing. You're preparing. That's why I said I'm choosing my words. I said if you submitted it today, there is I've not built anything for you guys to test now. So what are you guys gonna test? In progress means that you are testing but you're not finished. Passed means I've tested and it's finished and it passed. The test passed. But right now you just write a traceability report. Remember, a traceability report is more like a communication tool. It's a chart. You look at it, you're like, oh, it's just like what do you call it? A to-do list. You understand? It's a to-do list. You look at your to-do list, you only check it when you've completed your task. So remember, a to-do list has not started, started, and completed. So you're not going to say in progress when you've not, like if you have to do this, you cannot put it in progress when you are still sleeping in your bed. No, you only put in progress when you have actually started doing it, but you're not completed. Then when you completed it, you now check it and say, okay, completed. So it's just a chart. So you preparing this, like that's why I say if you submitted it today, you submit it today just means you've prepared it. But then they all will have a not started status because you've not started testing. You've not started anything. It's just ready. So when you now start testing, you put it in progress. When you finish testing, you now put the status. Did it pass or did it fail? So it's just a communication tool. It's compact. So remember, your test cases are like with steps. This is more of a compact summary. Like, okay, I've tested 100 tests and this is the status. Now, when you're preparing, because now we're still preparing, yeah, all of them would just have the status of not started because we've not started it. Does it make sense? Good, 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 good. So, and when you finish writing it, you guys, so people that might even ask for this is probably your, yeah, your delivery manager, maybe anybody is responsible for sending stuff to production,
Yeah.
will ask you, okay, do
Makes sense.
you have a traceability
Yeah,
report for
makes
me?
sense.
The person will look at it, okay, this one is not started. I sorry, I'm not gonna let it go to production. This has to be tested. See, it's just a communication tool. But now I told you guys to write a test case for all of these guys. It's just preparing. You guys are preparing. And when I build this functionality, then you guys carry out the test. And when you carry out the test, then you can fill in the results. So it's a step by step. It's a step by step process. Get it? So try to bring it close. Um, this is something I do a lot, but I'm just gonna say because maybe it might help you guys. Yeah. So these things I'm teaching you, bring it close to what you do in your daily life. When I mean your daily life, your daily profession, or maybe even your daily life, right? You understand? I've used the word to-do list. It just, if you think about it, it makes sense. Today I want to do this, 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 this. The first status all of them we get is not started. You've not started anything, so you just so if you think about it, like to start making sense, like yeah, of course, if I make a to-do list, everything is not started. Then when I stand up and pick one, I'll put in progress. Then when I'm done, I'll be like, it failed, I didn't succeed, or I succeeded. So if you bring it home, it will just make sense. You don't even need to cram anything or memorize it. It's just like shit, it makes sense because this is how we run our daily life subconsciously. You get it? Very important. So yeah, uh, so you guys will be adding a traceability matrix to the documents you're going to deliver. Yeah, for this encounter stuff. Let me add this. And please, please, I gave you guys already 2 weeks, so I would need these documents to be in this week. Sorry, I would like to be in before Wednesday so that because I want you guys to, review it for each other, between each other. Let me post this screenshot to the group so you guys would also have it. Um, so let's do a little bit of recap. So what are some key takeaways in this whole chapter because we have successfully completed this chapter. So what are the key takeaways? We've talked about the importance of test planning. Just give me a minute. Um, we've talked about the importance of test planning and documentation. It provides structure, clarity, accountability. We've looked at test plans itself and how they are being set up, uh, defining the scope, objective resources, scheduling. We've talked about all of that. We also talked about effective test cases, which comprises of making sure that your test case has clear steps, you put expected results, and also maintain it as you go because functionalities change and you want to update already existing tests. We also talked about requirement analysis. So remember, like I said, bring these things home. Requirement analysis is something we do every day, if not every other day, in our profession, in our daily life, in business. I don't think there's anybody running a business now that should not be doing some form of requirement analysis because how would you know what your customer wants? Or you just go and you just think, I think he's going to want this. That means you're going to be fighting your customers a lot, or people will not patronize you because you're doing something they are not interested in. So requirement analysis we talked about. You want to make sure that you have clarity when gathering it. You want to make sure it's testable. You want to have make sure it's comprehensive for you and so that it can help you with your test cases. And remember, we had that example of tailors. Tailors is a very wonderful example for this. You go to your tailor, you say, I want this. Tailor writes. The requirements, the tailor should not go off and do what he thinks because a lot of times that will make you very unhappy. So please do not do that in testing. We also talked about traceability matrix. It links requirements to test cases for end-to-end coverage. You see what requirements was set up and what was the end of it. If it passed, if it's not passed, if it's not started, or stuff like that. And of course, we have this hands-on practices to make sure that you guys get all the information or try to practice the informations we've learned. Right? So what is the next step? So I want you guys to apply some of these things you've learned to the exercises I've given you guys. I talk about experimenting with tools, but right now we're going to use Azure for that. So Azure is like Jira, so you already have access to that. And it says continuously review and refine your test artifacts for maximum clarity and efficiency. So you always want to look at your test cases and see how you can refine it. And keep getting better as we keep practicing. So that's it for today. Are there any questions so far? No questions. No questions. All right, great. All right. So please, guys, this week unfailingly, I would like to get the lab um, how would I get lab exercises? I want to get them in. So remember what needs to be done. I need the test cases for each of the user stories I assigned to you guys. So if you go back to this should actually just take you a few hours, if not even 1 hour to do. So if you go to our sprint, so remember if you go to our sprint, click on this one. You make sure you click on task board. You see we are all in a team, and I assigned each of you a test to sorry, a user story to create test cases for, and now we also talked about what you call it again, traceability matrix to it. So please go ahead and work on yours. I see Constance is done. I see Justin is done. Okay, you're done with understanding requirement. Great, great, great. But I see Constance is done with test cases, so I have to check with her. Maybe she's totally done. But so very good. I like what you did here. You created a task, and the task is now I understand the requirements, and now you're gonna keep moving. This is a very beautiful way you work in Scrum. You create these tasks. I see a couple of you. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm the one that probably haven't looked at this. I see Ifine is done. So Ifine, please, I would like to see the document for this. So I want a physical document, like in a Word document, the test cases, and the traceability matrix. Please send that to me. Uh, so please break your tasks down. So as you can also look at how others did theirs, and also think of yours the way you would like to break your tasks down. Please do that. But this is nice. I'm happy. I probably didn't even pay attention to look at the fact that you guys are already breaking down your work. Very nice. I'm very happy to see that. And this is how you work in the real world. Get it? It's beautiful. All right. So I'm gonna wish you guys a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Please, please, please send in your assignments. If you've completed them already, send them in today so I can look at it and maybe give you feedback. And when I get it as well, I'm going to share it with others in the team to get reviews from it. So go ahead. Um, I'm talking to you. Yeah, this is Chinonso Isaac. So you can break your tasks down. It's just like basic. Just think about how you're gonna go through it. You can also look at others to see
Are you
how
talking to me
maybe
or
if how they
Justin?
broke their
When you said
tasks
break your
down
tax
makes
down?
sense to you. You can do the same, or you break it down how you want to break it down. But
Oh,
the
I can
the
break
point
it
of
down.
breaking your tasks down is first of all it helps you
Okay.
um yeah, just the same way you break tasks down when you're having something big to do. It helps you have like a mental flow of how you would like to solve a problem or achieve a goal, but also it communicates it with me, who is your product owner, to be like, okay, uh, what task do you still need to complete? and what have you done so far. So if I see this test case email confirmation, this is just one big chunk, but it doesn't tell me how far you are. I don't really see it. But if you broke this down into like 5 or 6 steps, I'll be like, okay, out of 6 steps, she's done three. So that means she's halfway. So it's a wonderful communication tool for me to see the progress of what you're doing. So if you can break it down into smaller tasks, that would help me see what you're doing. And every time you move stuff to done, it makes me understand that, okay, she's halfway done. She just started. She needs more time, blah, blah, blah. So please, this is very important way to work if you're working in a DevOps environment. Uh, any other question?
Mm,
All right. So if you're done as I'm seeing here, and also when you're done, please
oh,
update your work and put it to closed.
yeah.
It means you're totally done. And please send in your
Okay.
documents to me so
Thank
I
you.
can look at it. Other than that, I wish you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.